Within the large language models that generate AI, there's been a fair amount of discussion about whether there is bias in the model. But it's difficult to test these models for something like heteronormativity. To what extent is AI inherently biased through its language model towards societal norms about gender, sexual identity? I was working on a video on a different topic about whether AI can be used in generating terminology. It's a good video. Here's the link. As I was finishing the video, it was time to make the thumbnail for YouTube. And actually, in a previous video, I had used an AI image generator to make an image that I put in the thumbnail, and I really liked the final result, which makes me think this might be a style that I can use for future thumbnails. Use AI to generate an image that's kind of unique to the theme of what the video is about. So as you saw, the video I needed an image for was called Kiss and Ride. So I went to Google and thought, okay, it's about kissing in a car. Let's see what images we get for kissing in a car. And I saw all of these images of couples kissing. All of the images were mostly white couples and all straight couples. These are all very typical. Here's one that's interracial. Nothing challenges anybody to think in any way. Here's a cartoon version. These of people kissing their cars were a little bit interesting. By the time I got down here, I started to think, well, what if the image were of a non-straight couple, just to have something different? I got down here and saw this red convertible and thought, there we go. Another Google image search, and this time I thought I'd make it a little more precise. A man being dropped off at a train station in a red convertible and kissing his husband goodbye. And came back with nothing. Let me give it a try on Bing. Same thing. Got the red convertible, but still the same straight couple. Here the convertibles aren't red. So that's when it became apparent that I would have to go to AI if I wanted an image that busted through the heteronormative stereotype. And before I get deeper into the discussion, I know that when I ask for a man and his husband, there are many different images of man that can come up. If I ask for a woman and her wife, people have all sorts of shapes and forms, and the stereotype is not the lived reality of many people who you'll come across. But what we're talking about here is, do we get images that look like what you think of as a man and what you think of as a woman when you go and do a search for, wedding cake figurines. And this is what you get back, right? So we'll figure that if somebody in one of the images that's generated looks kind of like this, it's husband. And if it looks kind of like this, it's wife. With that, I went to Bing AI and got back nothing. Stop the presses. Just after I recorded this video, Bing started to use GPT-4 for generating images on DALL-E. So that enabled me to go test people getting married in red convertibles at train stations with the latest generation. Now, the images that I got aren't significantly different than the ones that I'd already prepared. So what I'll do is put these at the end of the video so you can enjoy them if you have the time to continue all the way through to the end. The other thing that's happened since my first round of recording on this video is that I slid into another interesting test that can examine both gender bias and sexuality norms in the AIs that we have today. Those findings are important to put into this video. So after the first round of conclusions, I'll then jump in with the new stuff, which does add how we're able to understand the language models through image generation. And now back to our previously scheduled programming. So then I went to the image generating AIs that I've had some success with. Let's talk about how these image generators are functioning. What they have is they have their large language model. They have a big stock of images that are labeled, so they know things are cats or mountains or husbands. And then they have the language models that are able to take those labels and match them to the sentences that you give, such as a man being dropped off at a train station in a red convertible, kissing his husband goodbye. So they're going to look at man, dropped off, train station, convertible, red convertible, kissing his husband. Man and husband should be interpreted by the language model as two different characters, and then goodbye. And if the language model is intelligent, there will be some sense of an exit or a departure going on. I should also say that with AI, when we're looking at the AI results, there are a few different possible outcomes. There are outcomes where there is a right answer. Does the AI win at chess? There's an outcome where there's possibly a right answer. For example, in translation, yes, this is a correct translation, or no, this is not a correct translation. There are outcomes that are clearly wrong answers, but you have to look at them, examine them, and decide that they're wrong. And then there are outcomes where there isn't really a right answer. And this is very much the case with image generation. You can look at the answer and decide, does this answer the call of the prompt? And it's a judgment call. Maybe it has everything that you're hoping for, in which case is brilliant. Maybe it has nothing that you're hoping for, in which case you just kind of toss it and move on, right? If we get back 4 pictures and one of them looks good, we say, this is brilliant. And it is brilliant. But in our heads, we then kind of go with, yeah, we're getting 100% great results, where in fact you're getting 25% great results. But because you're happy with the results, those results rise in how we think about the success of what we're getting from the AI. Okay, so let's look at what we got. The first thing I did is I went to Adobe Firefly and asked the question about a man being dropped off at a train station in a red convertible and kissing his husband goodbye. Here we've got husband-wife, 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 husband-wife. Interestingly, in Google image search results and in the AI, generally couples are the same race, right? Did the same search a second time, and we got husband and wife, husband and wife, wife and husband, husband and wife. Later on, I did a search for a woman dropping off her wife, and first time I got in Adobe Firefly, I got these results: husband, wife, 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 husband, husband, wife. And then when I did it again, I got wife, 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 that red flower, and wife, wife. This is not machine learning. It wasn't that I had trained the AI that these were the subjects of the image that I was hoping for. But interestingly, in this iteration, Firefly did come back with images that corresponded to the norms of what we think of as people presenting themselves as females. Having said that, some of the aspects of the positioning of the people's bodies in relation to the car and in relation to saying goodbye are kind of strange. We'll see a lot more of that. So we're not getting it right in all aspects. You really have to be careful whenever you're doing anything with AI that something might look right over here in this part of a text or in this part of an image, but that doesn't mean that another part of the text or another part of the image isn't completely off base. So in this case, the language model actually hit the genders, but for example here, didn't give us a car that is something that one could imagine taking out on the streets and driving. So then I went to DALL-E and with the same prompt, actually got one photo that actually looked like something I could use. Man and husband, man and wife, man and something, and man and husband and wife. Didn't have much pizzazz. It is a red car. It is a train station. So cool. Here is with woman and wife. We've got husband and wife, wife and husband, wife and husband, wife and husband. So DALL-E was staying with the norms. Then I went to Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion has a lot of different filters for a lot of different artistic effects. So I ran the search 32 times, mostly for man and husband, several times for woman and wife, but I kind of gave up on that after I was only getting straight couples in those results. Let's look a bit at what we got from Stable Diffusion. I'll start with the man and husband searches. Here we've got man, wife, and 2 guys. And we've got a man, wife, and then 2 guys also in the car, so that's kind of ambiguous what's going on. Here we've got a very nice image, but husband and wife. Here again, a very nice image, but husband and wife. Husband and wife, it's not clear whether she's somehow in the car or not. We're at a train station, maybe on the railroad tracks, but we can let that slide. I really like the pizzazz of this image. I'm not sure how they are somehow in front of the windshield. So some of the artistic details are missing, and of course the linguistic detail of man and husband. This man and wife are in a similar pose, at least they're behind the windshield. These 2 seem to be outside. It's a cool picture. Okay, that young man is being a little bit handsy, and they are in front of the windshield again somehow. That's a nice picture. I'm not sure what this guy is doing here. And this really does look like any of those images from the Google image search, right? These people are behind the windshield. It's a nice picture. There's a train, not a station so much. For this, the instruction was origami. Not so much a train station, and it looks pretty much man and woman here. Here, it's not sure what's going on with this guy's legs. There is a train that's 90 degrees off. This is pretty, but man, woman, the style is stained glass. Here we're still doing man, husband, and we do have 2 men, but there's no kissing, and whether that's a wave goodbye or what this guy's arm is doing, I'm not entirely sure. Here we've got somehow 3 men, and whether there's any sort of relation between them is in no way evident from the image. Here, again, we've got 2 men. One of them is popping through the windshield in a very strange way. There's no kissing. Here we've got a man, no driver, British side. Can't really tell what's going on with these 2 people. So that, I would say, as an image, We've got the train station, we've got the red convertible, but the people are missing here. Now we get a few where there just are no second partners. So if this is anybody kissing anybody goodbye, yeah, no. Maybe his husband floated away in a balloon. Now are the ones where we're supposed to get a woman and her wife, and we've got a man and a woman standing in a convertible on the railroad tracks. A man and a woman emerging from the hood of their sports car. Another man and woman emerging from the hood of their sports car. There's a woman and a woman, but the woman is kissing her husband goodbye. The theme is Zelda, and we've got Zelda kissing a man goodbye. And finally, for the last 5, we do clearly get a man and his husband. This is actually the first image I generated, and I kind of liked it for the thumbnail I was going to produce, but it looked kind of weird with this man weirdly embedded in the car, and there was a lot of extra space here. So I actually wasn't intending to get into this deep dive into the AI image generation, because I did, on this first attempt, get something that kind of filled the bill. But then when I started to try to regenerate, and I kept getting images that didn't fill the bill, that's when this started to seem like it needed more investigation. This was pretty cool, except we've got the couple in front of the windshield. This was interesting, but the face is a kind of smush. This was getting really close, but again, the lips are not so nice. And then there was this, which has a train station, a red convertible, a bit strange with what's going on with the windshield, but it really kind of worked. So, clearly, a man and his husband at a train station in a red convertible kissing goodbye. With that, I thought, okay, yeah, this is an image I can work with. And I was then able to go up and do the other things that are needed for making a thumbnail. Futzing around with the colors and the positioning and the fonts and the frame. Just putting a thumbnail together like this can take an hour in itself. So I hope when you see thumbnails like this, you'll appreciate what's gone into it. But for this discussion, what we've shown is that heteronormativity really is deeply embedded within the large language models, and it's difficult to push outside of that. It's also really difficult to demonstrate that. I'd be interested to hear, in the comments, if you could think of a way that this could be shown without doing an image search. I can't think of how you would get a text to generate that, but if you can think of that, please do put that in the comments below. Run your own experiments and report back. I don't have any big conclusions about what can be done about this. The point here is to raise awareness that this exists, to open up the discussion, and then see if other human minds can be put to work trying to pave a path towards more inclusivity and diversity within the outputs of AI. I'm not just talking about sexual orientation. You could see interesting things happening with racial diversity, maybe a topic for a different investigation. Now, after I'd done these tests with the red convertible, I thought back to something I'd been working on regarding machine translations, looking at the assumptions that machine translations make about gender. And one of my test sentences was about doctors and nurses. I'd tested a doctor waking up their patient and a nurse waking up their patient to see what the pronoun was, whether the there came up with male or female in the other language. And the results were pretty much what you'd expect, but that'll come up in another video, I'm sure. For our purposes now, what I did is I went back and looked at the images. What images are we getting when we do doctor? What images are we getting when we do nurse? And found that images for doctor tend to skew male, but not entirely, whereas images for nurse are very, very much female. Hey again, even farther into the future. I wanted to back up what I said here about images being skewed towards male from among the doctor set. So here's one example. I've labeled the male doctors 1 through 16 in blue and the female doctors 1 through 4 in pink, using the colors that you find on the bracelets that they slap on babies the minute they're born in hospitals here in Switzerland. Then I got to wondering what would happen if I generated images using the word daktari, which is doctor in Swahili. So I asked Bing in Swahili to generate a picture of daktari. It did understand my command, which was nice. These are the images I got back. 4 images on an animal reserve. You can see that one of them even has a sign that says, clearly, "Welcome to Daktari Wildlife Reserve." What's going on here? Well, it turns out that Daktari was a television show in the 1960s about an animal doctor working on a wildlife reserve in Africa. So the great bulk of pictures that have been labeled Daktari for the image sets that are used for AI pertain to this TV show, not to doctors in East Africa. To get medical Daktari, you have to do more complex searches, like use the word for hospital. This really does show the relationship between images labels and language models within AI. And now let's go back to English. So let's verify this by generating a few images in the different services. This is a doctor in Bing. This is another doctor in Bing, male. This is another doctor in Bing, female. That follows through with the more doctors are male, some doctors are female in the image sets that they're working with. This is a doctor in Stable Diffusion. Another doctor in Stable Diffusion. Another doctor in Stable Diffusion. He looks very much like the previous one. Okay. And here we are with nurses. This is a nurse in Dolly Bing. Another nurse. Another nurse. Another nurse, all female. This is a Stable Diffusion nurse, female. Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion. We've only gotten female nurses in either of the data sets. Now we want to use this to look at the image generators for heteronormativity. Let's see if we can force the issue. Let's see what happens if we have two doctors marrying each other. So here's Bing, male and female. 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 Let's go over to Stable Diffusion. Two men. Now the question of whether this is because the doctors in their data set skew so heavily male or because they're letting go of the bias is something we can't answer, but let's keep it in mind as we go through the next set of data. Okay, two nurses marrying each other. Here I've started with Adobe Firefly, female, 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 male, female. And now Bing, female, 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 male. And we do have some men who've been labeled as nurses in the image set, as you can see when you do an image search in Google. This is what's called Bubble Bobble, and it's female, female, and female, female. Now let's really force the issue about heteronormativity. Let's do something that can only be female or only be male. This is two brides marrying each other. And here we've really given the AI no chance. Now these first two brides don't actually have any eyes, so this is definitely a wrong answer. Here we've got a bride and a bride, a bride and a bride, woman and woman, the grunge version of woman and woman, bride and bride, bride and bride. This is what they call tribal. We'll leave aside for the moment what they're doing with their representation of a fierce warrior princess. But it's woman, 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 bride, 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 and now over to Bing Dolly. Having seen a very similar set of brides, I wanted to push the model outside of the Euro-American dataset that they seem to be using as their primary source material. This is two brides marrying each other Tinga Tinga style. Tinga Tinga is a style of Tanzanian art. It did not do Tinga Tinga, but it did place itself firmly in Africa. Bride, 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 bride. Tried it out with African sculpture. Bride, 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 bride. Now, this has a certain voluptuousness that I'm not sure I've seen in African sculptures. Bride, 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 and a surprisingly topless pair of brides. Okay, let's try two grooms. And I was not sure whether groom might give us horseback riders. We did not, in fact, get horseback riders. What we got in Firefly was a man and a woman, two men, and a man and a woman. So groom was not enough in Firefly to overcome the men marry women idea. Here in Bing, all grooms are men. Stable Diffusion, the grooms are men. How about cowboys? Bing had to go with cowboys as men. Cowboys as men without eyes. And here's Stable Diffusion. Cowboys have to be men. I really like this one. Then I thought, let's test this with some professions that are not necessarily gendered. So I started with farmer. Two farmers marrying each other. Started in Adobe. Male, female. Male, female. Female, male. Male, female. Adobe really likes having men marry women. Here we're in Bing Dolly, and I'm not going to show you all of them because all of them are pretty much this theme. Here we're in Stable Diffusion, two farmers marrying each other. It's not clear what's going on here. We've got three characters, two of whom are definitely male farmers, one of whom is definitely a female getting married. Whether she's a farmer or not isn't clear except for her hat. But there's another question here, which is a lot of the world's farmers are women. In fact, I asked the AI chatbot at Bing what percentage of the world's farmers are women, and it very competently rolled out a nice piece of text with a well-sourced statistic from the World Economic Forum that women grow 70% of Africa's food. There is a problem with that. The World Bank did studies that put the female share of labor crop production in Africa at around 40%. So that demonstrates the risks of relying on what you get from your AI instead of actually doing further research. Another one of those AI outputs where the answer could be right, but you have to go and check. But in any case, I did force the issue for Africa. 2 African women farmers marrying each other. I'm not going to hazard a guess why the AI chose the woman on the left here as African. Here it's more obvious. And here, 2 African women farmers marrying each other. Too many fingers on the hands, but that's a known issue that they're working on right now. And then I tried with architects, and we've got male-male. The architect image set does skew more male. We got male-male, stable diffusion, male-female, male-female. Now let's try one where the image set itself is pretty much cut down the middle, 50-50. I went with street vendor for this, where the image set really does seem to be split down the middle. And Bing gives us female-male, female-male, male-female, male-male, 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 over to stable diffusion, female-male, female-male, very colorful, female-male, and 2 men. Finally, I tried testing where the word itself might be ambiguous, more ambiguous than groom. Let's try queen. 2 queens marrying each other in Bing. Female-female. Interestingly, female-male. And this one, the person on the right, I don't know, what do you think? Stable diffusion, 2 queens, 2 classic queens, and then with the disco filter at stable diffusion, 2 queens marrying each other into their data set for drag queens. Interesting. So just for fun, drag queens marrying each other in Bing, in stable diffusion with what they're calling tribal. And finally, the image that I liked the best for all of these, that is the winner for the thumbnail for this video, 2 brides marrying each other from Bing DALL-E. What have we learned? We've learned that heteronormativity is largely baked into AI, and that comes from both ends. That comes from the language model, which is difficult to represent visually, but in image generation, it largely comes from the labels that have been assigned to images in the data set. Remember, all of this labeling has been done by people. People have gone through millions of images and said, this is a bride, this is a groom, this is a cowboy, this is a farmer. And the AI is really only as good as its labels. It's not thinking, it's analyzing text and assembling responses based on that analysis. So if the images tend to be male, your results will tend to be male. If the images tend to be female, your results will tend to be female. And for now, if you want to generate images that go beyond the way things have been labeled, you'll probably have to do some pretty creative prompt engineering, like 2 brides marrying each other. I hope you found this video interesting, that it's provoked some thoughts for you. Please make sure that you're subscribed to the Pirate Professor channel here on YouTube. If you're able to go over to the Patreon page, I did something amusing over there with an international parking theme. At least let me know what you think if you're not actually able to subscribe and help out the channel. I also really appreciate any comments you make about the topic of this video in the comment section down below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will catch you next time. Okay, I promised you bonus content, the images I was able to generate after Bing started generating images using the latest generation of GPT. I'll go through these pretty quickly. You can pause to look at the ones you want to inspect a little bit more. Again, this is a man being dropped off at a train station in a red convertible and kissing his husband goodbye. A man and wife, the wife coming up through the windshield. A man and a woman kissing goodbye, and another man doing the dropping off. Man and woman kissing goodbye, another man and woman in the red convertible. Man and husband, and I'm not sure what that thing is in the driver's seat. Quite a few of these images have airplanes or birds or other things in the air flying around, so the image stock they're building from somehow must have airplanes or birds. 2 men. They're both giants in relation to the car, and the airplane behind them looks like it's going to crash. 2 men, one of them standing in a windshield without glass. 2 men and a very unusual airplane behind. A man kissing a woman and another man in, if this is a British car, the driver's seat. An airplane that seems to be flapping its wings like a bird. 2 men standing in their car. 2 men kissing in a car, and a man and woman kissing goodbye. Again, with the car on the tracks, a man kissing a woman goodbye. Here, one of the men is kind of levitating over the car. Now it's a woman dropping off her wife. The character in the car has a stubbly beard, so man and woman. Man and woman. No airplane. Man and woman. The man oddly standing on top of the car. Here I asked for Chinese dynastic burial sculptures just for fun. Here they're kind of fantastically flying through the roof. Here it would seem to be a man kissing a woman goodbye, and then two figurines in the car, which is not a convertible and is on the tracks. A man kissing a woman, and another woman kind of forlornly in the car looking back. That's the rear of the car, but it looks very much like the front grille, and an airplane that somewhat miraculously got off the ground. Okay, we've got two women, and then we've got two men in the car. There's a man being dropped off and kissing his wife goodbye, and another man in the car. Man and woman and woman, kind of oddly positioned in relation to their car. Woman and man in the style of Matisse. Woman and man, and then in the car are a woman and a man. Woman and man, and then in the non-convertible are a man. A man and... Not getting the character behind the driving wheel on the British side. A one-legged woman and man, and not clear on the character in the car. This is supposed to be Picasso, two women. Back to the Chinese sculptures, I love the way this woman is flying, and she is kissing her wife goodbye. Here we've gone medieval, and that poor character in the middle is getting smushed between the bosoms of the wives kissing goodbye. And there's a medieval airplane with an unflyable number of wings flying overhead. With this one, behind the woman kissing her husband goodbye, there's some sort of knight character with a pole coming up through its head. Here's a woman kissing her husband goodbye with an unusual number of legs. Now it is supposed to be Picasso, so that might be what's cueing the extra legs. And also you know that it's Picasso because there are sunflowers in the picture, and sunflowers were a favorite theme for Picasso. Here we've got a woman kissing her wife goodbye, and the man looks so ashamed to be associated with this. And let's close out with one extremely tall woman kissing her wife goodbye and holding her up in defiance of gravity as that poor man cowers in terror in his car. I hope you've enjoyed these bonus pictures. I hope you have fun using Bing to make your own pictures, and let me know if you make some that you can share that show more about how language models and image generation work together in the perpetuation or the overcoming of bias. Again, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.